New safety administrator implemented new procedures costing the company millions. This happened about 15 years ago at a large manufacturing plant where I was one of 120 industrial electricians. Also, this happened in the department in which I was primarily responsible. These jobs pay upwards of $30 an hour, and I was making $34 an hour at the time. This was my career for decades before I retired last year. I now get a pension from them and fully paid health care. This wasn't just a run-of-the-mill job, this was something I took very seriously. Our safety administrator retired, so a new guy started and decided to audit all the lock and tag out procedures everywhere in the facility. Moving forward, I'm going to abbreviate lock and tag out to LOTO. This place employed 4,000 people and was over 1.5 million square feet, so this was a massive undertaking. Many of the machines in my department were large multi-station transfer machines where the parts go into several drilling, milling, tapping, or boring operations and are then transferred to the next station and turned in between operations. Basically, an operator loads a raw part into the machine, and once it comes back out to the operator, that part is finished. The cycle time for this machine was about 1 minute, and it was a key part in expensive final products costing upwards of $50,000 each. It was made clear to me that the company lost $50,000 for every minute the machine was idle, as a way of instilling urgency in me, as if I needed it. New safety administrator implemented new procedures costing the company millions. Part 2. As I said, these machines had multiple stations that each had its own specialized operation to accomplish, all automatically. This, of course, involved many switches, buttons, computers, motors, encoders, and drives, all of which are used in industrial automation and sequencing. Usually, when an electrical part broke on a particular station, I would shut down the electrical power for that one station to perform my repairs and replacements. This worked just fine, and I could usually perform just about any repair within 15 minutes or less. The management people usually didn't even know anything unusual happened, as the operators were on pace work and would often skip a break to make up for the shortfall. That is, until the new LOTO procedures were released for those machines. The new procedure required anyone performing repairs to LOTO every station for every kind of energy potential. This includes electrical, pneumatic, hydraulic, and gravity. Since this was a union facility, this required the services of an electrician, a plumber, a mechanic, and a millwright. It also required something like 38 individual locks to be applied by the aforementioned skilled tradespeople. It also required about 4 to 8 hours of work to complete this task. Keep in mind, these were huge machines that would take up an area the size of a gymnasium and could cost tens of millions of dollars to buy. When I saw the new LOTO procedure, I grabbed my boss and the production supervisor and showed it to them, explaining in detail why this was ridiculous, unnecessary, and unworkable. My boss got the safety administrator, and we all had a conference. I was told basically that's the way it is. The very next day, a type of switch called a proximity switch failed on one of these machines. Normally, this is a 5 to 10 minute repair. New safety administrator implemented new procedures costing the company millions. Part 3. I dutifully informed the production supervisor that he lost his machine for the rest of the shift and half the following shift. He chuckled and said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Dude, I'm dead serious." I got my boss to tell him I needed 38 LOTO locks, a plumber, a mechanic, and a millwright. He looked at me like I had 3 heads. I said, "Remember that conversation we had yesterday? It just got real." My boss said, "Show me why you need 38 locks." Okay, so I brought him to the machine, pulled out the 10-page illustrated, notated, laminated LOTO procedure off the machine, and counted where each and every lock needs to go, 38. I said I also needed the other tradesmen here as well. I figured the machine would be rendered safe by the end of the shift, Matt can do the repair, and I'll need another 4 hours to remove the locks and set the machine up to be ready to run by lunchtime. Just fix it the way you usually fix it, my boss told me. Put that in writing, I said. Just fix the stupid thing, was his unhelpful reply. I think you need to give me that in writing, or you need to get my union rep here. Those are your 2 choices, I am not going to get fired over this. About this time, several men in suits and ties showed up to find out what the problem was, called into action by the production supervisor I previously mentioned. He and I had a great working relationship, and he knew what was going down, so he started making phone calls when I let him know the machine was broken. To make a long story short, an hour-long meeting was held, which included my union rep, after which I was provided written permission to make the repairs as I always had. The new safety administrator had been properly scolded and learned a lesson. New safety administrator implemented new procedures costing the company millions. Part 4. The machine was running 10 minutes after I received the paper. This delay was a loss of $3.5 million according to their math. That loss would have been $24 million if I had to follow their procedure to the letter. All the new procedures were put into place with a lot of input from my colleagues and me. The same thing happened with 500 other people, as they had also been provided with new ridiculous Loto procedures.